My beloved child. Listen carefully, because the moment your person placed your photograph in front of that psychic, they believed they were about to receive confirmation of everything their heart had been telling them about you. They expected reassurance. They expected to hear that the connection between you was rare, that the strange pull they felt toward you had a reason, and that all those moments when you appeared in their thoughts without warning actually meant something. But the psychic did something they never expected. She picked up your photograph, looked at it for several silent seconds, and then slowly placed it back on the table without saying a word. Your person immediately noticed the change in her expression. "What did you see?" they asked. The psychic didn't answer immediately. Instead, she asked one question: how much do you really know about this person? And in that instant, everything shifted. Don't skip, because what happened next wasn't simply about your past. It wasn't about another relationship. It wasn't even about something you had intentionally kept hidden. The psychic told your person that there was a side of your story they had completely misunderstood, and when she finally explained what she believed she could see in your photograph, your person felt something inside them suddenly go quiet. The excitement disappeared. The certainty faded. For one confusing moment, they wondered whether loving you had been a mistake. They had entered that room hoping to understand why they couldn't stop thinking about you, but now they were questioning the very connection they had come there to understand. Yet here is the part they didn't realize: the psychic had only seen one piece of the picture. She didn't know the context. She didn't know what you had overcome, what you had chosen to leave behind, or why certain parts of you had become so guarded. And your person didn't know that either. Stay till the end, because the detail that seemed to make their love disappear was eventually going to become the exact detail that forced them to see you differently. There is something almost unbelievable about what happened after they left that room. Your person didn't call you. They didn't send the message they had been planning to send. They simply sat alone with your photograph still inside their bag and replayed the psychic's words again and again. She had told them, "The person in this photograph has changed more than you understand." That sentence stayed with them. Changed how? From what? Why? Their imagination began filling the spaces where facts should have been. And that is where the distance began. Not because they suddenly discovered something terrible about you, but because uncertainty can make even a confident heart hesitate. Something huge is waiting for you, because this is where the story turns in a direction nobody in that room could have predicted. Your person remembered small things about you that had once seemed meaningless. The way you sometimes became quiet when conversations became deeply personal, the way you seemed to understand disappointment without needing it explained, the way you could smile warmly while still keeping certain doors inside yourself closed. Suddenly, those moments looked different. They wondered whether the psychic had noticed something they had missed. But then another memory surfaced. Something you had said casually a long time ago, a sentence your person had almost forgotten. People sometimes judge the version of me they can see without knowing what it took to become that person. And suddenly, doubt entered their doubt. What if the psychic had interpreted your transformation without understanding its reason? What if the thing she saw wasn't evidence that you were pretending to be someone else, but evidence that you had grown into someone else? Your person opened their bag, pulled your photograph back out, and stared at your face. This time they weren't searching for a secret. They were searching for the truth. And for the first time since leaving that psychic, the feeling they thought had died began doing something unexpected. It didn't return as romance immediately. It returned as curiosity. A powerful need to understand you before making a decision about you. Don't skip, because one tiny detail in that photograph was about to challenge everything the psychic had said. That detail was something your person had seen hundreds of times but never truly noticed. Your expression. Not your smile itself, but what seemed to exist behind it, the calmness of someone who had already crossed a difficult chapter and decided not to carry it into every new relationship. Suddenly your person remembered who you had actually been with them. Not rumors. Not interpretations. Not predictions. Your actions. Your patience. Your consistency. The moments when you could have walked away but chose understanding instead. The times you listened without demanding anything in return. And one question became impossible to ignore. If the psychic's interpretation was the entire truth, why did their real experiences with you tell such a different story? Stay till the end, because this is where something once in a lifetime began unfolding. Your person decided they needed answers, but they weren't going back to the psychic, not yet. First, they needed to revisit something from your past that they had previously overlooked. A conversation. A name. A moment connected to the exact period of transformation the psychic seemed to sense from your photograph. And when your person finally remembered who had been there during that chapter of your life, their entire expression changed. Because that person could explain what happened without predictions, assumptions, or mystery. Your person reached for their phone, searched for something they had saved months earlier, and found the connection they needed. Their finger hovered over the screen. The love they thought had disappeared hadn't truly died. It had been buried beneath a question. And now that question was leading them toward an answer powerful enough to reverse everything. Something huge is waiting for you, because when they finally learn why you changed, they may realize the psychic didn't uncover a reason to stop loving you. She accidentally pointed them toward the reason they never fully understood you in the first place. The next morning, your person woke up with one sentence repeating in their mind, "The person in this photograph has changed more than you understand." But now those words no longer sounded like an ending. They sounded like a doorway. And behind that doorway was something the psychic had never explained. My beloved child, don't skip, because your person was about to discover that the moment they thought their love for you had disappeared was actually the moment their understanding of you began. They opened their phone and searched through an old conversation, looking for the name connected to that forgotten chapter of your life. They had heard this name before, only once, during a conversation when you almost revealed something personal and then quietly changed the subject. Back then, your person respected your silence. Now they remembered every detail. The pause before you spoke. The distant look in your eyes. The strange softness in your voice when you said, "That chapter taught me who I never wanted to become." At the time, they thought you were talking about an ordinary disappointment. But after what the psychic had said, that sentence suddenly carried another meaning. Your person stared at your photograph again and realized something surprising. The psychic had described change, but she had never said that change was bad. Your person had added that meaning themselves. That realization hit them harder than anything else. What if their feelings hadn't disappeared because of what the psychic saw? What if their feelings had been temporarily buried beneath their own assumptions? Stay till the end, because this is where the story becomes completely different. Your person found an old message containing the clue they needed, and suddenly they remembered exactly where they could find the truth. But before doing anything, they stopped. Something inside them said, "Look at what you already know." So they did. They went back through memories of you, one by one, and something incredible started happening. Every memory contradicted the version of you they had created after leaving that psychic. Your kindness had been real. Your patience had been real. Your consistency had been real. And the more they remembered, the more uncomfortable one question became: why had they allowed one mysterious conversation to outweigh everything they had personally experienced with you? Then came the moment that changed the direction of everything. Your person remembered something the psychic had done immediately before handing your photograph back. She had looked closely at one specific area of the picture and quietly said, "There was a turning point here." Your person hadn't understood what she meant, but now they did. The photograph they had taken to her wasn't recent. It came from a period when you were still becoming the person you are today. Suddenly the entire reading looked different. Something huge is waiting for you, because your person realized the psychic may not have been describing who you are now at all. She may have been interpreting an older version of your emotional story through an older photograph. Your person immediately searched for a newer picture of you. They found one taken much later, and they placed both images beside each other. Same face. Same eyes. But there was something different that couldn't be measured with appearance alone. In the older photograph, you seemed to be carrying questions. In the newer one, there was calmness. Your person stared at those two pictures longer than they expected. And then they whispered something they hadn't planned to say: you didn't become someone else. You became yourself. That sentence changed everything. Because suddenly the mystery wasn't about what you were hiding. It was about what you had survived emotionally, learned quietly, and transformed without announcing it to everyone around you. Don't skip. The biggest revelation still hadn't arrived. Your person decided they would not judge your present through an interpretation of your past. But before coming directly to you, they wanted to understand one final detail: the exact turning point the psychic seemed to notice. They searched through old memories until they found a conversation from that same period. And there it was. A message from you they had completely forgotten. It contained only a few simple words, but those words made your person sit completely still. One day, someone will meet the healed version of me and never know what it took to get here. Suddenly, the psychic's mysterious statement didn't feel mysterious anymore. But there was still one question your person couldn't answer. Why had the psychic become so silent when she first saw your photograph? Why had she asked how much your person truly knew about you instead of simply explaining what she believed she saw? That unanswered question pulled your person back toward the beginning. Stay till the end, because what happened next was the exact opposite of what they expected. Your person contacted the psychic again, not because they wanted another prediction, but because they wanted clarification. This time they asked a direct question. When you said this person had changed, what exactly did you mean? There was a pause. Then came an answer your person had never prepared themselves to hear. The psychic explained that she hadn't meant you had become colder, dishonest, or less capable of love. She meant the opposite. She believed the person in that photograph had once given too much of themselves away trying to be understood, and eventually learned to protect their peace. Your person froze. Every assumption they had made collapsed at once. The love they thought had died hadn't disappeared because the psychic exposed something about you. It had gone quiet because your person misunderstood what they heard. And now, with the meaning finally clear, another feeling began rising, stronger, calmer, deeper than before. Your person looked at your photograph again, but this time there was no suspicion in their eyes. There was recognition. They finally understood why you sometimes moved slowly with your feelings. Why you didn't reveal everything immediately. Why your heart seemed warm but careful. Something huge is waiting for you, because your person was now holding the same photograph that had once made them question everything, yet they were seeing an entirely different person inside it. And just when they thought the mystery had finally been solved, the psychic added one last sentence. There is something else about this photograph I didn't tell you the first time. Your person stopped moving. Because whatever came next wasn't about your past. It was about the connection between you and them, and the psychic had deliberately waited until now to reveal it. The room seemed different after those words. Your person held the phone closer, suddenly forgetting every question they had prepared, because the psychic's voice had changed. There is something else about this photograph I didn't tell you the first time. For several seconds, your person said nothing. Then came the question that had been waiting beneath everything: why didn't you tell me? The psychic paused before answering. Because you weren't ready to hear it without misunderstanding it. My beloved child, don't skip, because that sentence opened a completely new mystery. Your person had spent all this time believing the biggest revelation concerned you, but now they were beginning to understand that part of the message concerned them. The psychic explained that when she first looked at your photograph, she noticed something unusual, not something negative, but a strange contrast. She believed she could sense someone who had learned to become emotionally steady after a major period of personal growth, yet there was another impression she couldn't immediately explain. Whenever your person spoke about you, their description didn't match the person they were afraid you might be. They kept describing your patience, your warmth, your consistency, and the unusual sense of familiarity they felt around you, while simultaneously searching for reasons to doubt it. You didn't bring me that photograph because you knew something was wrong, the psychic finally said. You brought it because something felt unusually right, and that frightened your certainty. Your person became silent. Those words landed differently. They remembered exactly why they had taken your photograph there in the first place. It wasn't suspicion. It wasn't distrust. It was because their feelings for you had become deeper than they expected, faster than they understood. They wanted someone outside the connection to explain it. And somewhere along the way, they had turned uncertainty into evidence against you. Stay till the end, because your person was about to realize something that changed the meaning of their entire visit. Perhaps the psychic hadn't caused their love to disappear at all. Perhaps she had accidentally exposed how quickly your person could retreat when something became emotionally important. Then the psychic asked a question so simple that your person couldn't answer immediately. Before you came to me, What had this person actually done to make you doubt them? Silence. Your person searched their memory. They searched every conversation, every meeting, every small moment between you. Nothing meaningful appeared. There had been misunderstandings, pauses, imperfect timing, but no great revelation proving that you were someone they should stop caring about. And suddenly your person felt the weight of what they had done. They had nearly rewritten an entire connection because of an interpretation. Something huge is waiting for you, because this was the moment they stopped asking what the psychic knew about you and started asking what their own heart already knew. They remembered the day you noticed they weren't themselves without being told. They remembered how you listened instead of forcing them to explain. They remembered one ordinary conversation when everyone else seemed distracted, yet you remembered a tiny detail they had mentioned weeks earlier. Those moments had seemed small at the time. Now they looked enormous. Your person reached for the older photograph again, then opened the newer one beside it. For the first time, they weren't comparing your face. They were comparing their own perception. The first time they looked at that photograph after visiting the psychic, they searched for reasons to leave. Now they searched for reasons they had stayed emotionally connected even while trying to convince themselves otherwise. Don't skip, because what they noticed next almost felt impossible. In the background of that old photograph was something connected to the very first meaningful conversation between you and your person. They had overlooked it every single time. A place. A tiny familiar detail. Something that instantly brought back the memory of when your connection stopped feeling ordinary. Your person remembered exactly what you said that day. Some people arrive when you're finally ready to see things differently. At the time, they smiled and moved on. Now those words returned with completely different weight. The photograph hadn't revealed a hidden version of you. It had reminded them of the moment when they first realized you might matter more than they intended. And then everything became even stranger. Not because of another prediction, but because your person made a decision the psychic didn't expect. They said, "I don't want you to tell me what happens between us." The psychic went quiet. Your person continued, "If I need to understand this person, should understand them through them." That was the turning point. Stay till the end, because the person who had entered that first conversation searching for certainty outside your connection was finally ready to search for truth inside it. They ended the call and sat alone with your photograph. The same image that had once made their feelings collapse now represented something completely different, how close they had come to losing something meaningful because they allowed uncertainty to speak louder than experience. They began composing a message to you. Deleted it. Tried again. Deleted that one too. Nothing sounded right because they didn't want to pretend nothing had happened. They wanted to ask you something real. Something they should perhaps have asked from the beginning. Finally, they typed, "There's a part of your story I realize I've never understood. If you ever want to tell me, I want to listen without assuming anything." Their finger hovered above the screen. Something huge is waiting for you, because before they could send it, another message appeared on their phone. Your person stared at the screen, completely still. It was connected to the name they had been searching for earlier, the person who knew you during that old chapter. And the message contained one sentence that changed the story again. "If you're trying to understand why they changed, you're asking the wrong question." You need to know who they were protecting their future from becoming. Your person read it twice. Then a third time. Because suddenly they realized the greatest secret wasn't what happened to you in the past. It was the promise you quietly made to yourself afterward, and that promise was directly connected to the way you